Hello everybody and welcome to this month's anime paint night. So this month's character is going to be Mashle from Mashle, Magic and Muscles. So inside your kit you should see that reference sheet right there with Mashle on it. You should also have our line art of Mashle breaking his wand while eating a cream puff and our watercolors, which won't look like that, I promise. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to be doing, as per usual when we do our paint nights, is we are going to start with the skin tone. So, Mashle's he's not really pale, per se, but we're definitely not going to use a lot of pigment, is what I'm going to say. Okay, we're definitely not going to use a lot of pigment. So, what I definitely recommend, as you can see, I'm situating myself, trying to make sure that I've got everything good. I'm pretty sure I'm getting the reference sheet. So now we're gonna go for the brown. Just barely dab a little bit of brown on Mashle, a little bit in the face area and the neck region. Then go ahead and get some of the white. I hope your white / cream is a little bit cleaner than mine. You know, it's just what it is. I'm not complaining about mine, but definitely not exactly the cleanest, but that's okay. So blend the brown and the eggshell or cream together, and then you should get a pretty good skin tone as to what we want, or at least what we can do with what we have with the watercolors. Then we'll move on to the hand, still repeating the process, adding just a little bit of brown and then using the cream to kind of spread it around. One of the things that I found was that if you're not fast enough when you dab the little bits of pigment first before you blend it, if you're not fast enough, it actually doesn't blend very well. So you got to make sure that you have a little bit of a pace to it. Not too fast, but just have enough water to make sure that it still blends. So see, I'm not wasting time this time. So once I make the streaks, I start immediately blending. Yep, just like that. Then I go ahead and get the brown with a lot of water, and I use that water to just spread it around because we don't really need too much pigment here. We're just using the water as much as we can with the color to just maximize how much the water can actually spread the paint around. And since he's not super duper tanned up, we can still be generous with the water usage. I'm going to add a little bit of shading where the clothes start to cover the arm a little bit. And then I believe I add a little bit of shading to where the fingers kind of fold over each other as well. Not too much, but just a little bit to add a little bit of depth. And a little bit on the knuckles as well. Making sure to get the cream to spread it out a little bit. And then there you go. There we have the hand there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is his marking underneath his eye. This is the mark of a magician. Everyone should have a mark of sorts when you're a magician in Mashle's world. Now, it's not necessarily that he's a good magician per se, but he's still a wizard. So he's got magic, so he's got his little marking there. And yeah, so now let's move on to the next thing, shall we? Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start on his uniform, starting with the tie. So we're going to go ahead and go for the red. Now I know my hand is kind of blocking what we're doing here, but yeah, we're just going to handle the tie with a little bit of the red. Take your time with it. Just use your imagination as I'm going through painting it. There we go. Nice. Very good. And almost done. Nice. Good. So as you can see, he's wearing a uniform, so he still is eligible to go to the I think they call it the Wizard Academy. Just think of it I love this way of describing Mashle, Magic, and Muscles. It kind of feels like we're going to do the belt now. We're going to go for the brown. There we go. It's a small detail there, but it feels like if you blended Harry Potter and One Punch Man together, and it doesn't sound like something that would work. Maybe it does to you, but I wouldn't have thought of that. And like, wow, it works. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to start working on the coat. Now, I added a little bit of the blue, but as we explained before, because of how slow I was, it didn't really blend properly. You can kind of still see the specks. So instead, I have to like use a lot of water and use a lot of blue to start spreading it around. I know his coat isn't necessarily blue, which is why I'm using a blend of purple and blue together. But first I want to add like a pretty fair coat of blue to go around. And then I start adding the purple, and I toss back and forth between purple and blue. I want it to be more purple, so I end up using the purple last and using the blue as like that first layer of the coat. So, you can use a darker color. You can actually, something that I was like a little bit worried about doing, you could actually use black to help spread around the color instead of the purple if you want it to be really dark blue. But yeah, so I'm just using purple and blue. If you'd like, you can, but you can do whatever you'd like. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next part of the coat in the next one. Alrighty, now for this one, we're going to start moving on to the cream puff, actually, before we start doing on the second part of the coat. So, he loves cream puffs. Oh my goodness. His father will warn him, like, hey, look, listen, try to keep low, lay low, and stuff like that. You're not very good at magic, so we don't want to be scaring the locals, so stay at home. And he'd be like, alright, yeah, I'll stay at home, Dad. I love you, Dad. As soon as that dad leaves the house, that boy is going straight to get cream puffs. So yes, we had to include the cream puffs in this picture for sure. I add a little bit of yellow for it, but then I go a little bit of brown to add a little bit of like a little bit of depth in the of color for the cream puff. I don't know if I necessarily do that again though. Like, it kind of looks like he's eating a sponge. Now I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I should have just kept the yellow, but I try to like fix it, add a little bit more yellow to make it a little bit more consistent. But it's just like, all right, I've done my damage. And then I try to like lighten it up with the cream, right? But as you can see, the cream is not very clean on my palette, so I'm just like using this to like spread it around and blend, but it ends up looking like what it is. But it's a cream puff. If you know, you know. It's a pretty good show, by the way, if you haven't watched it. It's very, very funny. Oh my goodness, it's so funny. Blending One Punch Man and Harry Potter. Very, very, very funny combination. Alright, but now we're heading over to the coat. Yet again, we're going to be starting with a little bit of the blue and then using the purple as that blend. And this time around, we are going to start like blending a little bit closer to each other. So instead of just doing the small dab to blue, we're just going to be going back and forth right off the bat with the purple and the blue. So we'll start on the lower part of the coat, and then we'll start moving into the arm area, like so. Take your time with this part. You're kind of close to where the cream puffs are, which is why I wanted to do the cream puff first, because I didn't want any blue in the cream puff. I wanted to make sure that was done first, at least. And, if I accidentally get blue on the cream puff area, because the yellow is now like there and it has had a chance to dry, it'll still be the more dominant color, just in case I make a mistake. But take your time. A lot of small areas here. A lot of small crevasses and such. Yes. I don't know why I say crevices like that, but that's all good. So you can't really see what I'm doing there, but my hand's kind of blocking it. But you see, there you go. Nice. Adding a little bit more blue, and then adding a little bit more purple. There we go. Looking good, looking good. Yep, adding a little bit more purple. I know his outfit is like a lot darker than this, but It's with the colors that we have available to us in the watercolor packs. I thought this would be. I didn't think it would be a bad idea to make it a little bit lighter. I also expected the purple to be a little bit more deeper, and the blue as well. But before we move on to our next, we're going to start working on the sleeve on this side. And you'll kind of see what area is like the sleeve, but also which is the undershirt. But now you're done with that, we'll move on to the next part. Alright, and our next section that we're going to start working on is the undershirt. So before we get to the undershirt, as you saw, I added a little bit of red for where his wrist is. It's like he has like an undershirt under his uniform and such. And I think that's where that red little like sliver is. But his actual like dress shirt, the one that the tie is attached to, we actually have a pretty light blue that I think works very nicely for it. So I just kind of primarily did that. I didn't even blend a lot of colors with this one. I just started working on that undershirt sleeve a little bit. There we go. And for this side, right? So to kind of express how like strong he is and such, I didn't even have a full sleeve on this side. I just he was like flexing his muscles so hard that it like ripped his shirt while like he was breaking his wand and everything. So I thought that was a nice little addition to kind of like show his strength and such. I know he's a little bit slender in this picture than he is in the show, but I hope I conveyed it pretty well so we can still have a fun time painting it. We'll see. So now we're gonna start moving on with the light blue in the middle part of the shirt. I didn't even worry about coloring the buttons a different color. I was just like, you know what? Blue is blue is blue is blue. But I added a little bit more purple. There we go. For the inside of the sleeves. I diverted my attention, however, back to the ripped sleeve side, because to showcase the fact that the sleeves ripped, I added little pieces of the shirt that were flying off. So I added a little bit of that color of the light blue to kind of symbolize it, like, yep, those are the shreds of paper, or those are the shreds of the sleeve. Then we're going to go ahead and do the inner part of the sleeves right here, like the coat sleeves. And we're going to add a little bit of black just to kind of emphasize the fact that this is way darker than the coat, like on the outside and such. Because, it's shading, it's shadow. And then we'll do that for the opposite side as well. And then after that, we'll start doing our last portions. So we're almost done. Alrighty. And so our last part that we're seeing that we're working on now, first we're going to start with the eyeball. The eyeball is yellow. It's like kind of yellow. But then we're starting the hair. Now, usually for our anime paint nights, the hair is just like, whoa, this is the part. But like, Mashle's hair is kind of chill. Little bowl cut. He ain't really trying to flex on nobody. I tried to add a little bit of that anime hair shine to make it a little bit more fun, but it also just might have made you a little bit more cautious in painting. But either way, we can still have a little bit of depth with his hair, even though it's not necessarily the most interesting, but it's still nice. So I'm using black as the primary color for this one. You can I interpret it as like his hair being black, but like, how like when the sun hits like a blackbird's feathers, there's like a little bit of iridescence where you can see like other colors in it, like blue and stuff. When you like look at his hair in some like parts of the anime, and even in the reference sheet, you kind of see a little bit of some blue. So what I do actually is I'm eventually, after I'm done doing most of the black, I'm actually going to go for a little bit of the blue. Yep, there we go. So I'm starting to add a little bit of blue to give it a little bit more color and depth. You're not going to see too much on here, but eventually, as I keep going, it starts popping up a little bit. It kind of looks... I liked adding the blue. The blue gave it a little bit more of an interesting look and such. But again, you're probably not going to see a lot of that, just, for the deal with the camera. Now, this is the fun part for this one. We're going to do the section of the painting where we're going to be where the wand is breaking in his hand because of how strong he is. He don't need no wand. A lot of the promotional artwork for Mashle features him breaking a magic wand and stuff like that, just because of how strong he is, or it's just what it is. You can kind of see it in the reference sheet too, and I think the bottommost one, you can see him crushing one of the wands. And so we'll make sure to use a little bit of brown. I add a little bit of orange to tan up the wand a little bit, and making sure to color the pieces of wood that are chipped. And then you don't have to do these colors just like every other part of the paint night, but I had a lot of fun trying to figure out how we're gonna do the burst lines for expressing that he's literally crushing this into pieces. So I decided to use some primary colors like blue, red, and yellow and stuff, and bada bing, bada boom. That's what I did there. And so now, after we've done the burst, I'm gonna go around and add a little bit of shading where we need it. So I took the regular blue and I started going to some portions of the light blue area to add a little bit of that shading. So I did some on the sleeves, and I did some on the inner parts of the shirt. Yep, and just spread it around a little bit with the water, just to give it a little bit of depth. Just to give it a little bit of depth, not too much. There we go. And then what I'm gonna do now, add a little bit more shading in the skin. So I add a little bit more brown, a little bit more water, and add a little bit more shading in the hand area. Get some water, spread it around. Get a little bit more brown. Define the fingers a little bit more. There we go. We're almost done here. Going on the other side, working on the opposite hand. There we go. And then I'm pretty sure I work on the face a little bit more. Yep, I knew it. Yep, I'm working on the face where the bangs of his hair add a little bit of shading to his face. Added a little bit more brown there. And then I added a little bit more shading to where his neck is, just to secure it like so. You know who he always also reminds me of? He also reminds me of Mob Psycho. He reminds me of Mob Psycho, yeah. Again, very much One Punch Man energy and such. Love that energy. Love it. Couldn't have it. But look, listen. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Anime Paint Night. Watch Mashle, Magic and Muscles. It's really funny. Well done, everybody. Fantastic job, and we'll see you next month. All right. Bye-bye now.